let's get into this, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to our Thursday night live stream. Of course, after the very interesting game between the Green Bay Packers and Tennessee Titans. Obviously, it was a one-sided affair for majority of that game. We would have liked to see a little bit more fight out of that Green Bay Packers team as a whole, but hey, we got what we got. It's a Thursday night game on a short week, and of course, Derrick Henry's running over every single defense, especially against the ones that cannot stop the run, which Green Bay was one of them. Either way, for the next probably hour and a half now, we're going to be talking all things fantasy football related. If you guys have a question, be sure to go ahead and just comment down in the chat, the live chat down below. Again, if your question is in regards to specific players for this week, whether it's a trade, anything of that nature regarding fantasy football, please be sure to include your scoring format. Again, scoring format being half PPR standard, full PPR. If you get, an additional point per first down, that is also relevant information, stuff like that, so that I can come with the most potential information, gather all that together, and then give you the best possible suggestion that I can in regards to your current given weekend question. All right. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. For those of you who have already arrived, click the like button down below. That is greatly appreciated. What Andrew forgot to do is, before the stream even began, was to type out click the like button. So that's what I'm going to do in the chat, so that if anybody hops in here, they know what to do. Let me go ahead and do that real quickly before we even proceed any longer. Bada boom. I'll send that in there, and then I got to pin it to the top so that we're good to go. All right. I do see there were a couple people that sent in donations already. Again, you guys don't feel obligated to do so. Michael Barton, you're crazy. That's why I love you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you showing the love. I'm going to get to those in just a moment. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about tonight's game first and foremost. For those of you who are arriving just after watching that, of course, first and foremost, we have the thumbnail as Treylon Burks, but it wasn't just him as the rookie wide receiver that we want to talk about. We, of course, want to talk about Christian Watson as well. Christian Watson was the guy that we had on our waiver wire Monday video because he was coming off of a 30-point performance against the Dallas Cowboys. He comes out, puts up another game in which he scores 2 touchdowns. Now, I'm beginning to feel that there is a Aaron Rodgers rule that we might have to roll with going forward in regards to Aaron Rodgers likes one guy to throw touchdowns to, and that's about it. It was Allen Lazard. No longer seems to be Allen Lazard in that regard. And then going forward, it is going to be, of course, Christian Watson. Having himself, only 4 catches, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. All while Allen Lazard had 11 targets, 5 catches, 57. Allen Lazard could have had himself even more. One was a drop. The other one could have been a DPI in the end zone. Either way, not a big deal. Aaron Jones, relatively limited in this game. Again, the 6 receptions will save him in a full PPR, but nothing big deal there. In regards to the other side of the ball, Derrick Henry's going to do what he does, especially when we talk about the Green Bay Packers for 5 consecutive games have given up over 120 rushing yards to every single opposing offense. Of course, one of the best teams in the league at running the ball, even without their starting center, Ben Jones, came in and they got the job done. As for Treylon Burks, 7 catches, 111. Started the game with a huge reception, ended the game with a huge reception. This is why we've talked about him in weeks past as someone that, even as an IR pickup, was someone that could be relevant. We know that in fantasy football, rookies take a little while to find their footing. And once they do, especially in the second half of the season, that's when they can be absolute playmakers and win you a league. Just look at Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, right? Sneakily came out of nowhere and took over the league and won many people championships. And we're hoping to find that with the Treylon Burks, hopefully, in the future weeks. But we'll have to keep that monitored as we continue. Okay, let's see what we got here. A couple questions that were sent in. Of course, Michael Barton says, in a 12-team full PPR league, and list 3 to potentially start this week, we have Kadarius Toney, Gus Edwards, Paris Campbell, Isaiah Pacheco, and Nico Collins. Okay, Michael. So first and foremost, my immediate thought is you have to absolutely start Kadarius Toney this week. Everything that I am reading, obviously with Mecole Hardman first and foremost going to the injured reserve, that makes it that much more of a solidified position for him going into this week's offense. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, who is, of course, coming off of a pretty rough concussion, is most likely going to remain on the concussion protocol list until week 12 and most likely misses this week's game Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. So if those 2 primary options are going to be out, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is still dealing with an illness right now. He'll probably play, but he may be limited in that capacity. Kadarius Toney is an automatic play. As for Gus Edwards, if I'm not mistaken, he has participated in practice. I just don't know if that's at a full capacity or not. I'm going to go ahead and check the Ravens' actual official let's see here. Where is their actual official injury report? So as of this week, he was limited in both days, Wednesday and Thursday. That keeps me a little bit less inclined to potentially start him. Then we go to Paris Campbell. I think he's an automatic start in my eyes. Again, the last 3 games that he's played with Matt Ryan, 15 plus fantasy points in each of those 3 games. In just a half PPR and a full PPR, it's probably 17 points minimum. So Tony and Campbell must plays there. And then you have Pacheco, and then you also have Nico Collins. Nico Collins, in my eyes, would be a guy that I'd be very inclined to play if, in fact, we do get a designation that Brandon Cooks is not active this weekend in the game against Washington. At that point, I'd be willing to play all 3 of those receivers and be good to go. But currently, with Edwards a little bit limited, coming off the hamstring and, of course, the bye week, and Nico Collins, we're still not 100% certain as to whether or not Brandon Cooks will be active and available there. I'm probably leaning towards Pacheco as the 3rd for now. Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Your follow-up question as well was, should I trade DK Metcalf for Gabriel Davis? I would like to keep DK Metcalf on roster. I think the volatility in which is presented from Gabriel Davis could end up creating a hot streak of games where he can go for 15 plus fantasy points for 3 consecutive weeks, but he could also do the complete opposite where he goes for 5 fantasy points for 3 consecutive weeks like we've seen. So that volatility does scare me. Of course, he's associated with one of the better offenses, so there is less risk because of that, but still, I think I'd rather just keep DK remaining. Final question from you. Better flex, Edwards or Paris Campbell? Yeah, it's certainly going to be Paris Campbell, especially when we're talking about your league being a full PPR scoring format. Thank you. Tyler T says, start Sutton, Rondell Moore, or Connor in the flex full PPR this week. All right, Tyler. So of your 3 options, theoretically, okay, there's a couple determining factors here. Because this is a Monday night game in which the Cardinals are taking on the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be in Mexico City. If, in fact, we do see the activation of Marquise Hollywood Brown and he's going to play in that game, which we won't know until Monday night, there's a very good chance that Rondell Moore's overall value does diminish in some sort of capacity. In my eyes, I'm probably just going ahead and rolling with Connor or Rondell Moore. I'd rather go with one of those. I'll just bench Sutton. I do not mind not playing him against the Raiders this week and just wait and see what happens on Sunday. Because primarily I want to play Connor. And if in fact there is no there is no Hollywood Brown, that could give me a little bit more incentive to want to play Rondell Moore, especially in a full PPR format. But for right now, the lead of those 3 in my mind is going to be Connor. Thank you. Hive Salon says, Eno Benjamin or Melvin Gordon. Well, considering Eno Benjamin was just cut by the Arizona Cardinals and then hired or signed by the Houston Texans, I do not expect him to play much football this weekend. So it is going to be Melvin Gordon for sure there, Hive. Thank you. And then Michael, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let me go ahead. Let me pop open the chat on screen and let's go ahead and see what you guys have to ask. Of course, try to answer as many questions as we can within the next hour plus here. Of course, talking all things fantasy football, shall we? So let's throw this on screen. Bada boom, right there. Okay, so AJ delivered tonight. Who's AJ? AJ Dillon? Because Aaron Jones, I guess Aaron Jones, maybe in a full PPR was okay, but AJ Dillon hasn't been good in weeks, and that's why he's kind of been off the rankings list. Burks is slowly blowing up. I mean, again, that's how rookies work, right? You guys got to remember, right? When a rookie comes into the NFL, that is the longest year of their life in terms of a career, because as soon as they finish their college, their final games at college, they go immediately into combine prep, right? Into, pro day prep. And they're completely dedicated to that until they get drafted. As soon as they get drafted, they're sent to minicamp. As soon as they go to minicamp, then they go to OTAs, then they get to preseason, and then they're in the regular season. It's the longest year. It's the most taxing on their bodies. So at a point where he can finally, obviously, recover from that turf toe, get his body right, get his mind right, get his, comfortability with Ryan Tannehill to a position where we have no, hesitation in any sort of regard, then the rookies start to blow up. And that's typically why we want to have guys like Garrett Wilson or, Christian Watson and Treylon Burks, hopefully Drake London at this final stretch here. How does Christian Watkins, well, okay, that's definitely not Watkins, but you kind of got him and Sammy Watkins switched up. Look going forward, again, he's the touchdown guy for Aaron Rodgers. So as long as he's doing that, I have no problem with him. Should I trade Ramondre, Godwin, and Rondell for Chubb, Keenan Allen, and Swift? Okay, that's a really good question. Also, I have Kamara and Fournette at running back. So you don't have a running back here. Fournette doesn't really count unless you have Rashad White. And I have A.J. Brown, D-Hop, Kupp, and Lazard. So Kupp doesn't count either because I honestly think there's a potential in which Kupp could miss more than 4 weeks. But you never know. Again, it is it's something that we have to keep monitored as of this moment in time. But as of right now, considering the trade that you have on the table, I would like to have Chubb, Keenan Allen, and Swift the rest of the season. Those are my 3 preferred. If you can go ahead and lock that down, KJ, I would absolutely do it in your position. Thank you. Who should I start in a half PPR flex, Foreman or James Conner this week? I'm fairly certain I have James Conner ahead of him, yeah. Mainly because as much as I like Foreman, the issue is Baker Mayfield and then the Baltimore Ravens defense with Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen. It is going to be really difficult for me to anticipate that Deonta Foreman can come out and have a very similar 100-yard rushing game against the Baltimore Ravens defense when all they have to worry about is Baker Mayfield throwing the ball. So in that specific kind of a circumstance, I'd rather just play James Conner there against the 49ers. Campbell for Burks. I don't think we need to do that technically. I think we may be a little bit hasty on that, but again, Steven, I think it depends on what exactly Campbell is for your roster. If Campbell is that number 5 receiver and he's not a starter and you can take the risk and say, hey, you know what, let me buy in on the hype of Burks and let's see where it goes. Sure, but at that point, if he's an actual contributing factor to your roster, I don't think it's worth making that kind of a move. Dulcich, Juwan Johnson, or Foster Moreau at tight end. All right, great question. As you guys can see right here, okay, as my hand gets cut off, okay, right? How about we do it this way? Right here, okay? Bottom right, we have the thumbnail from today's video where we talk about tight end and quarterback rankings for week 11. If you guys haven't checked that out, we have rankings for top 16 tight ends in a half PPR. Of course, meeting everyone in the middle, whether you play in a standard or a full PPR. And we have top 16 quarterback rankings with that as well. The only players that I guess are not viable on that list anymore was Aaron Rodgers. He played pretty well tonight, which was great. I don't even remember what number I had him at, but I think he was in the top 10. Either way, so if you're wondering in regards to that kind of a question, hopefully that video and the context to those answers will give you a little bit of a direction to go with. Thank you. Garrett says, I need 3 wide receivers in a flex. All right, Garrett, let's see what we can do here. You have Slayton, we have A-Rob, we have Tony, we have Latavius, we have Keenan Allen, we have Palmer, we have Campbell, full PPR. I think this is going to mainly have to do, Garrett, with what exactly we see Keenan Allen at in terms of health by Friday, because Kadarius Toney's the automatic, first and foremost, has to play. Then after that, it's Campbell. Actually, I don't think there's an order. I think Kadarius Toney and Paris Campbell are must starts without a doubt in my mind. And then if you can, it would be Keenan Allen as the number 3. But if Keenan Allen can't go by Sunday, specifically playing on Sunday night, then you would just pivot to Palmer, and I think you're good to go there. I think those are the 3s that I would like to kind of roll with. Obviously, I do have Slayton higher ranked than Palmer, but if in fact Keenan Allen is to drop out, Palmer would then ascend him and take that current position. Thank you. Need to draft rookies late next year. Well, here's the thing about this, Raider. Even though you're 100% true in the idea that you should be investing in rookies, this only works if you're playing in a league that has a wider bench capacity. If you don't play in a league, guys, where you have 6-7 bench spots, it is extremely difficult with injuries and, of course, bye weeks to be able to hold someone and invest in them over a 10-week span. Again, it's week 11. It has taken this long for Christian Watson and Treylon Burks to show signs of life, to be relevant fantasy options, right? So if you have to wait 10 weeks, it could really fill up a bench spot and hurt you in the long run, especially throughout that first couple weeks of the season where a lot of players that we thought were going to be good and we drafted turned into busts. Guys like, Allen Robinson, that I was so high on, but obviously the LA Rams offense is the worst in the National Football League after winning a Super Bowl. But at this point, yes, we want to invest always every year in rookies. The ones you specifically want to do, like we were talking about this offseason, with guys like Kenneth Walker, guys like Breece Hall, guys like Dameon Pierce, that you could get, that if in fact one thing goes their way, rookie running backs, there's so much history behind their value. Either way, but we'll get there when we get to 2023. James Robinson or Elijah Moore in the flex, full PPR. Tank, at this point, I know that they want to move Elijah Moore into the slot position. I just don't know how much of a expanded role that technically attributes to his overall scoreline and box score within a given week. I know that there's a chance that we're going to see Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis on the outside, which will be Zach Wilson's number 1 and 2 primary receivers. I'm hoping that Elijah Moore in the slot finds more a little bit more comfortability there and can be more of a viable option for this team. But for right now, if with all things considered, I'd probably just go James Robinson just because I don't know what to expect from this. What are some players I should trade for? I have okay. You have ETN, you have Connor, you have Devonta Smith, you have Olave, you have Walker. I mean, at this point, if you're trading for anyone, because you have ETN, you don't need to go after a running back. You have Swift, you don't need to have. Okay, you have Connor, you have Fournette. So really, you don't need running back at this point, unless you're going to make a play for somebody else that's higher ranked, which again you'd have to give 2 for 1, which is not really worth it at that point. You need more depth going forward. You have Jefferson, you have Hollywood, who could come back this week, so you don't even need a wide receiver 2. You have Devonta Smith, who's obviously going to get a boost of production with the absence of Goddard. You have Olave still. You still have Walker at I mean, my goodness. You have Andrews, you have Gabe. I mean, you have Schultz. Why do you need anybody, Kaiser? Why do you? I mean, you could make some trades, certainly, right? Someone would be willing to want to take Schultz off your hands, right? You just need to go find someone who's in desperate need of a tight end. Go ahead and send them tight end, send them Fournette, send them Connor, or 2 out of those 3, and go get a better running back or something like that, or go get a better wide receiver too. At that position, because otherwise you're kind of stacked across the board, my guy. What place do you have Derek Carr rest of the season? I'd probably venture to say like 15, maybe lower, maybe 16, 17 at quarterback rest of the season. Because again, without as many receiving options as he had earlier this season with a healthy Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, who were coming off of pretty good seasons themselves in 2021 and 2020, it is tough for me to venture and say that Derek Carr is going to be a better option than majority of the league. So I'd probably say he's in the second half of that conversation of the top 32. Trade Marquise Brown for Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I'll do that. I don't mind that. I think they have very similar kind of upside, but I like Tyler Lockett a lot rest of the way. Cadillac says, with D-Hop's hamstring injury, would you... What does it say? With D-Hop hamstring injury, do I start... you mean what? What do I start if he doesn't play? Hollywood, Brown, Debo, Garrett, or A-Rob? Under the assumption, let's say, for example, okay, I will indulge in your speculation. Let's say, for example, D-Hop doesn't play. I would play Hollywood Brown if he's active. That's what I would do. Because we've seen already this season, when there's no D-Hop in the lineup and it's Hollywood Brown as the wide receiver 1, the guy is a top 8 wide receiver option in the National Football League, if not better, in terms of fantasy. So, yeah, that would be the suggestion under this assumption, of course. Started Brooks. How about that, huh? He started Brooks tonight. Well, congratulations. You benefited a massive performance there. Isaac says, I already messed up by not starting Watson. Should I start Tony over Pacheco? Yes, you should be starting Tony this week for sure. Country says, if I can trade Fields for someone, and someone for Hurts, and get Christian McCaffrey and Cooper for... Wait, what? If I can trade Fields and someone for Hurts, I can get Christian McCaffrey and Cooper for Hurts. Who should I offer with Fields to get Christian McCaffrey and Cooper? Is Miles Sanders too much? Or try Cordero Patterson or maybe Boyd in a PPR scoring format? This beginning of the sentence is confusing to me. Why is 4 Hurts in here? Like, what is this talking about? Like, I don't understand. Are we just trading Fields and someone for Christian McCaffrey and Cooper? If that's the case, yeah, let's do it. I mean, I don't know what quarterback you have. Maybe you have Hurts, and maybe that's what you're referring to. But at this point, if you can send away Fields and Boyd and get back McCaffrey and Cooper for the late half here, I don't mind that. Tony or Foreman in a half PPR, I'm going to go with Tony this week. Thank you very much, Leo. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hopkins, better play. I think he'll be fine. Don't worry about it, guys. He'll be fine. Is Christian Watson becoming a solid wide receiver 2 for the rest of the season? I think he can firmly in Rodgers' circle. Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games, 5 touchdowns in the last 8 receptions. Like those are ridiculous numbers. So yes, I'm firmly planted in the idea that he's probably going to be relevant for the rest of the way, and that's why I had him as my number 1 waiver option. Right? it's a matter of potential, not a matter of like, hey, I'm not ranking Paris Campbell ahead of him on waivers just because I think Paris Campbell's better than him in week 11. No, we're not playing that game. We're playing, hey, who has the better rest of season value? That's why Watson was the number one in terms of the waiver wire pickups for this given week. So yeah, going forward should be pretty good because his potential is really high up there. Okay, let me see if I missed anything because I'm sure I did. There was a couple donations that were sent in. Let me address those really quickly. I do appreciate you guys sending those in. So first and foremost, we have Colin Smith says, in a full PPR scoring format, I have one running back, one flex. Who do we roll with this week? Okay, cool. So we have Swift, Pacheco, Pickens, and Dulcich. In my humble and honest opinion, I would like to play Swift and Pacheco. I have heard rumblings that Swift has been very vocal in the building in terms of the amount of utilization and or opportunity he's been given, and the coaching staff has heard it loud and clear. And obviously he's practiced fully today and will do so again tomorrow. And with that, I'm pretty excited about the potential of DeAndre Swift going into this weekend's game, specifically against the New York Giants. We've seen, of course, guys like Kenyon Drake, Travis Etienne, as of late, run for over 100 yards against that defense. Why not a guy like DeAndre Swift, who, of course, is better than both those guys in my mind? So yeah, those are my two suggestions there. I'd much rather play Pacheco over Dulcich and Pickens. Again, mainly under the assumption that this team is going to be certainly running the ball against the worst run stop defense in the league in the Los Angeles Chargers front seven, which of course they're giving up over 6 yards per carry on average this year, and really cannot stop the run regardless of who they're playing. Specifically last week, we saw a guy like Elijah Mitchell found himself a lot of success, and of course, so did Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey even had a second touchdown stolen from Jimmy G. Otherwise, would have had an even bigger week there for running backs. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. Luis Castillo says, in a half PPR scoring format, Andrew, offered Komet and Michael Carter for Kittle. Okay, fair trade, or do I ask for Komet to be paired with Mixon, Pollard, or Pierce, Montgomery, or Pacheco? Okay, so this is what I'll tell you, Luis. If in fact you can get anyone else in that conversation, Mixon, Pollard, Pierce, Montgomery, right, and he'll actually give it to you, then I would say, yeah, let's do that. But I don't know if you'll be able to get that in exchange. Now, I think the primary question is, Luis, are we making the trade because we're in need of running back depth? Because if we are, and that's why we're giving away Kittle, then okay, we should probably try to get a better running back than Michael Carter. Hopefully Montgomery at very least, right? Because if Montgomery without Khalil Herbert is going to have the lead back role, I mean, just looking at the production of running backs over the course of the last month against the Atlanta Falcons, who they play against this week, Mixon went for 15 fantasy points. Dante Foreman completely torched them twice. And then, of course, Atlanta, who do they also go up against? I'm trying to remember. Austin Eckler, he went for like 18, 19 fantasy points and a half PPR. So, yeah, I mean, I think Montgomery's got himself a lot of value going forward. If you can get him instead at a base minimum, if not Pollard, Pierce, Mixon, I mean, if you could do that, goodness, that'd be great. But that's my suggestion there, Luis. I wouldn't settle for Michael Carter. All right, Idiot says, full PPR. Should I start Swift or Brian Robinson as my RB2 this week? Yeah, I want to roll with DeAndre Swift. Again, I understand it is very sketchy. In my opinion, if it's my team, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Swift over Brian Robinson. I know you do say that you don't trust DeAndre Swift. It might be a big game. Totally understand that you don't trust him. Again, from my perspective, I'm so numb to the amount of times that I will trust a running back and then they'll burn me the week after that I don't even hold it against them. It's just, it's a week-to-week basis kind of thing. So I don't really hold any sort of distrust in Swift. It's more like distrust in the coaching staff. But considering all that I've heard, the practice regimen, the full nature of said practices that he's participating in, I want to play Swift this week, specifically against the Giants. I know Brian Robinson could be primed for a big game against Houston, which he should be, hopefully. But his inefficiencies in running will probably even out. He'll still have himself a good game, but I think Swift has higher upside. Thank you. Just Get It Done says, trade Kenneth Walker / James Conner for Christian McCaffrey / Tony in a full PPR scoring format. I think, yeah, let me look at your team. Let's see what the context is. So you have Justin Herbert, you have Eckler, JT, Kenneth Walker, Connor. You have Rashad White, you have Paul. Okay, you have a really stacked running back room. So you can theoretically get away with a trade like this, and I wouldn't even hesitate. And then who do you have a wide receiver? You have Diggs, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Olave, you have Mike Williams, Mooney. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this trade at all. Let's do it. Give me Christian McCaffrey. Give me Tony rest of the way. I'm fine with that because, again, you're going to be starting Eckler, JT, and Christian McCaffrey for the remainder of the season, while your wide receivers will be Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and either Mike Williams or I mean, I guess Tony could be in that conversation going henceforth. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey's the big fish that we want to collect in that overall trade there. Thank you. JK sends in a question. Says Palmer or Pollard this week in the flex? Yeah, it's certainly in my mind going to be Pollard. I know that there is a lot of confidence from the organization saying, hey, Ezekiel Elliott had some great days of practice here. I am still of the opinion, guys, it's just a matter of the eye test. It's just like what we talked about a couple weeks ago with Jeff Wilson. When I watch these games back, okay, from the end zone cam specifically, because that's how I was taught to, as a player, as a coach of the game of football, that's how I was taught to just break down film. When I'm watching the end zone cam, it is unbelievable how much of a significantly better just option in terms of speed, in terms of decision making, in terms of cuts across the board. The ball carrier vision that, I mean, Tony Pollard has, the burst he has out of this backfield. I mean, I'm sure the coaches, they witness it every single week. So I don't expect Tony Pollard to go anywhere. I think he's going to be the primary option. And especially when we're talking about in comparison to Palmer of all people, it's not close. Hive Salon said, flex Tony or Cooper? Yeah, I have currently Kadarius Toney ahead of Amari Cooper going into this weekend's game, even though the game has been moved from Buffalo to Detroit Stadium. Even with the indoor vibe, doesn't make a difference to me. I'd rather play Kadarius Toney with Juju out. Of course, McCole Hardman hitting the injured reserve. All right, before we continue answering a couple more questions, I do want to thank you guys for joining us this night after the Thursday Night Football game. Of course, we'll be here for the next hour answering questions, so do not worry if I don't get to your question just yet. If you guys are here and you have not yet already, please be sure to go ahead and click the like button down below. Greatly does help out the channel in terms of its growth going forward and continues to allow me to bring you guys daily fantasy football content and, of course, multiple live streams throughout the week in order to help you guys out. Also, if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Probably in another 30 minutes, we'll talk about a couple entries. I made a couple tonight. They hit big. Love to see it. Of course, Christian Watson picking a lot of mores on his overall statistic lines. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Either way, let's go ahead and continue. We have J.K. Dobbins, or sorry, not J.K. Dobbins, excuse me. It was just, the name was J.K. Okay, we did his question. Anthony sends in a question. Hey, what's up, dude? How you doing? Thank you very much. Says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR league, I got offered Pollard and Keenan Allen for Rondell Moore. Wait. I got offered Pollard, Keenan Allen, and Rondell Moore for Josh Jacobs. My best receiver is Chris Olave right now. Interesting. Okay. I mean, okay, considering the fact that is your current circumstance, I would probably lean towards saying, yeah, I mean, it probably helps your team as a whole. It probably helps your team more than it hurts it going forward. Like if Josh Jacobs, right, which he's not going to be in a full PPR, but let's say he is without a doubt rest of the way 20 points per week. I still believe that the contributions that you will be able to get from these other options to help your roster out and not have you to, potentially be forced to play underwhelming wide receivers by being able to fill in Keenan Allen and or Rondell Moore would be fine. Pollard is an okay running back fill in. So yeah, I don't mind that, based on your current circumstance. Otherwise, typically I'd say we want to hold our star running backs, but in this case, yeah, I don't mind it. Dylan Taylor says, traded Fields for ASB. You mean ARSB? Yeah, I think you meant Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm currently 8-2. I have Watson. You like ? As much as I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, no. It's not about like. I think Amon-Ra is one of my favorite receivers in the National Football League. It's not even a matter of like anymore, okay? I'm fully committed. I mean, geez, man, that guy's ridiculous at what he does, especially at his stature. At this current moment, if you're trading away Fields and you're getting back other players to help, hopefully you have a top 5 quarterback amongst your quarterback room right now. I know you said you have Watson, but Watson doesn't mean anything to me. Hopefully you have Jalen Hurts, or hopefully you have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, somebody of that nature. Because if in fact Fields keeps doing what he's doing, it's going to hurt to have traded him because the guy is ridiculous. I talked about it earlier today in the video that you guys can see literally right here. Okay, this video down here, bottom right. he has had himself 325 rushing yards in the last 2 games. That's 32 and a half fantasy points in just the last 2 games alone versus just via rushing yards. Not to mention the fact that he scored 2 rushing touchdowns this last weekend and 4 consecutive games of a rushing touchdown. So again, it will hurt if he just keeps balling out at that level, but we'll see. All right, kicker rest of season ranking, says Sam. Sam, we'll get there in a moment. I mean, I don't think I have I think I can give you a pretty good idea as to guys that I like rest of the way. But again, it's just a matter of consistency more than anything. Do you know what I mean? All right, let's see here. Let me go ahead. Let me answer a couple more of these questions before we finish out the... Okay, cool. So Brenton7 says, I have Lamar, Fields, Keenan Allen, Pittman, Paris, Pickens, Saquon, Najee, Patterson, Foreman, and Higbee. I traded Lamar and Najee for Walker and Cooper. Good trade. That's a fantastic trade. Well done, Brenton. Leo says, I'm in a PPR league. Christian Watson, trade value, question mark. Bad matchups plus bye coming up. I'm looking for a wide receiver that can help me win now. Other wide receivers are Amon-Ra St. Brown, Higgins, and Hollywood Brown at this current moment. Okay, so if you're going to look to potentially trade one of the more valuable wide receivers in fantasy, I wouldn't do it for anything less than a pretty high valued player in return. I'm looking immediately at guys like, well, okay, let me think about this before I start throwing out random names. Because if you're going to trade him away, I want at least like Chris Godwin back, at very least. Otherwise, I'm looking for guys, if I can sneak away and steal a Christian Kirk from someone, thank you very much. I'll take that. Tyler Lockett could be in the cards. I don't mind that at all. But those are the kind of guys I'm looking for. I don't want to, sell low on the potential if the potential continues to ride and be at a very high upside. So, like I was mentioning, Chris Godwin's, Tyler Lockett's, I'd even be comfortable with Amari Cooper going forward at that point. Thank you. Justin sends in a question, says, Drake London or Foreman this week in the flex full PPR? I think it's probably just safer to roll with Foreman there. Thank you. Brianna sends in a question, says, scrambling to replace Cooper Kupp in a full PPR league. I need 2 wide receivers in a flex. Okay, so let's see here. You have Sutton, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Pickens, you have Collins, you have Swift, you have Pacheco. Okay, cool. So I think we're in a pretty good spot to be able to fill this out and find pretty good success. So based on what you have, Swift is the flex play, and then the following other options would theoretically be Sutton and Garrett Wilson. And there's no hesitation there because I don't really feel comfortable playing Pickens at this moment, considering the passing abilities of that offense. Nico Collins is very much so a fringe player, relies upon a lot of other guys not being, active participants within the offense to get himself a lot of targets there. Pacheco, again, between him and Swift, I'd just rather play Swift. So that's the rotation there, Breon. Thank you. All right, let me see here. Jordy, we're going to get to your question in a moment. Let's see here. Jordy, where are you at, my man? Jordy, any questions in this chat, my guy? No? Jordy, if you can do me a favor, just type in the chat while I'm answering some of these other questions. Thank you. Jake says, Andrew, you copping Pokemon Scarlet at midnight? No. I haven't played a Pokemon game since the Nintendo DS was a thing. So it's been a very long time. I would probably venture to say that I haven't played a Pokemon game since like the 7th grade. So it has been a very long time. It's probably been like 15 years. So no, I will not be copying the next Pokemon game, which, hey, listen, don't get me wrong. It's probably going to be a good game because, Pokemon is one of the best games of all time, but I will not be doing that this today, especially with all the work I got to do. Pokemon requires a lot of grinding. I can assure you that, especially with the new starters, all that kind of stuff. Should be fun. All right, let's see here. Antonio Gibson or Mike Williams in the flex. Again, this is under the assumption that Mike Williams plays. If he does, I'd like to have him in my lineup instead. Well, Money says, which side wins in the trade, Garrett Wilson or Dalton Schultz? I think it depends on what you need. I think purely in a full PPR, based on the lack of stability and or depth at tight end, this is a very equal trade in my mind. Because Garrett Wilson could continue to be the level in which he's played at, if not a little bit lower, and still be relevant in a full PPR, to the point where I think I'd rather have Dalton Schultz. Because again, if I don't have a tight end and I'm having to play guys like, I'm just going to throw out a couple names. If I've had to survive off of Everett and Higbee for the last couple weeks now, and none of them are doing anything for me as of late, I think I'd rather just have the stability at tight end, considering how much of a massive role Dalton Schultz is within the offense. I mean, you guys remember how much I talked about him in the offseason. He was my number 5 ranked tight end going into the year. He was behind Kelsey, Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and what's his name? George Kittle. It was literally Schultz right after, mainly because I knew with no Amari Cooper in this offense, with a struggling Michael Gallup coming off the ACL, Schultz is the only other guy to catch this ball, and that's exactly what he's done now that Dak Prescott's back and now that he's healthy from his knee injury. So, yeah, I think I'd rather just have Schultz there. Let's see here. Pick 2.5 PPR. We have Debo, we have Sutton, we have Allen, we have Robinson, we have Pittman, we have okay. I mean, at this point, it's probably something of the combination of Sutton and Pittman. If not Allen, assuming that he's healthy, but I don't think he'll be at that full capacity as of this weekend, Troy. So I think Sutton and Pittman is probably the way you go in that regard as the combo play. Samurai Champloo, huh? Full PPR, would you trade Pollard, DK, and Juju Smith-Schuster for CeeDee Lamb? Wow, that is a massive haul for a singular player. I'm going to make the playoffs. I'm currently 7-3. I have Dak, Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, DK Metcalf, Sutton, Hollywood, Kadarius, Juju, Mark Andrews, and Godwin. Oh, man, you're kind of set up, huh? You got a really good-looking team here. But is it worth to send all three of those players away for just one? I don't think. Who's your other wide receivers here? You have DK, you have Sutton, you have Juju, you have Kadarius. So theoretically, your primary 1 and 2 will be CeeDee Lamb. Man, I feel like you're giving up a lot. I mean, like Juju Smith-Schuster himself, the 3 weeks prior to his concussion, I mean, he was 18-plus fantasy points in each of those games, right? So you have really good talent. I mean, you got DK. I think you're giving up a lot. Now, I think you're giving up a lot. I feel like I would want a better receiver. I'd want Devontae Adams instead, you know? I'd want Tyreek Hill. I mean, if I'm giving away 3 guys that could theoretically start on your team right now, that could be contributing factors to your championship run for one singular player itself, it's tough for me to give you the go-ahead there, in my mind at least. All right, let me see if Jordy had sent in a message just to... All right, Jordy, we got you. All right, so Jordy says, Jimmy G, Olave, Jefferson, Ramondre, Zeke, Kittle, Campbell, Hendo, DK, Walker. Should I trade or squeak a win this week and ride my team? I got offered Dalvin and Godwin for Jefferson, or Adams and Gibson for Jefferson. I'm trying to think as to, okay, so based on your team, right? You have Jefferson, Ramondre, Zeke, okay. People are offering you Dalvin Cook and Godwin for Jefferson and or Adams and Gibson for Jefferson. Do you need those trades? I mean, what do you need at running back? You have Ramondre and you have Walker, Kenneth Walker. I mean, you don't technically need Dalvin Cook in that regard. Zeke is obviously not going to be a very viable flex option for you going forward, but you don't have to worry because you'll be past the bye weeks there. Jordy, my question is, what is your current record? Why are you scrambling for this victory? That's my question. Why are you even considering moving Jefferson off the team? What's your current record? Thank you. Rick sent in a question, RIQ. Rick Rose says, full PPR, Swift, Pollard, or David Montgomery, pick one, Olave. Okay, so if we're playing one of those guys, oh my goodness. I think as of right now, I probably have it Pollard, Montgomery, Swift in that exact order. As to a follow-up to your next question, Olave or Rondale Moore, I have Rondale Moore. If in fact we get to Sunday and there is a confirmation that Marquise Hollywood-Brown will be active, I think we can then pivot to Olave, but I think I'd still be pretty comfortable playing Rondale Moore there on Monday night against the 49ers. So as of right now, we'll keep an eye on the second question. But for the first one, we're 100% certain that I would like to run Pollard there. Sip says, I picked up Watson off the waiver wire, started him. Okay, awesome. That's a great week for you, my man. That's a good way to start. Full PPR, pick 2. Wide receiver, 1 flex. Okay, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. We have Rondale Moore, we have DJ Moore, we have Mooney, we have Slayton, we have Montgomery. Okay, I think this is a really easy approach here. Rondale Moore, Mooney, Montgomery. Those are the 3 absolutely without a doubt in my mind, Sip, and you're good to go. Considering, the amount of opportunities they're going to get in comparison to these other options you have, you're in a good spot there. Thank you. All right, let me go ahead and scroll back up. Chubb, Pierce, Juju for Christian McCaffrey and Cooper. I think we talked about this a little. Well, look, again, these kind of questions, again, I got to see the whole depth of your team, because when you're giving away these kind of a running back, I mean, dude, that's a lot of talent, man. It's a lot of talent. I don't know what kind of depth you guys have. Maybe you guys have extreme depth in smaller leagues, like a 10 or 8 team league, and that could be the difference maker. But for right now, it's tough for me to trade some of those prospects away in that kind of a regard. Ibrahim says, Andrew, can you give your defensive rankings? If not ready, can you give your thoughts on the Jets? Yeah, Ibrahim, I can tell you for sure I have the Jets as my third highest ranked defense going into this week. I also feel pretty confident that the rest of the season they're really good value. We talked about it on Monday in terms of the waiver wire at the end of the video via defenses to potentially go pick up. The Jets were the number 2 right behind the Baltimore Ravens and right in front of the Washington Commanders. Their consistency of play at defense over the course of, I think, since week 3, about averaging 10 points per week. I don't think it slows down anytime soon. They're one of the best defenses in the league. Of course, their head coach, he's a defensive-minded guy. So they've drafted players, they've addressed their positional needs, and they're playing very well. It's all about the bebop. Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. Is that what it's about? Andrew, should I start Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift? Again, this is the question of the week, huh? This is the question of the week. This is one that I'm going to have to mull over for probably the entire week before we get to Sunday. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be here live streaming with updated rankings. I want to play Swift. I just don't know if I'll be able to suggest that by the time we get to Sunday. It's tough. Let's see here. Caesar says, Watson, 4 catches. He has to have 2 touchdowns. That's fantasy for you. Of course, my opponent had him. Yeah, listen, I picked him up in a lot of leagues myself in which he was available and was able to utilize him to a maximum capacity because when you have a guy like that, I mean, I don't know how much wide receiver depth you guys have, but whenever you have Watson available to play, it is like, hey, you know what? I just won. It's like you're gambling to an extent, right? You just won big, and you're like, all right, I'm going to step away from the table. We're not stepping away from the table. We're doubling down, and we're going in on that Thursday night matchup, and it panned out. I am fully aware of the fact that it could have blown up in my face because we know, Thursdays are a cursed day, and a lot of players do not play well on Thursdays because of the short week, but luckily he was able to get that one play, which, of course, was a throw-up 50-50 ball. He came down with it, 6'4", 38.5-inch vertical. We talked about it earlier this week. Those are the difference makers, man. And, of course, he ran the exact same route where they're down in the red zone. He runs a crossing route, but the primary pull is when they're playing cover 2 with 2 high safeties and you have Alan Lazard go for the post, right? He immediately pulls the safety's coverage. The safety tries to jump the route. Of course, you get Christian Watson behind the safety and over there in the back corner of the end zone, easy clap, It's just, it's so simple. It's so simple. All right, a couple more questions that were sent in. We're going to get to those in just a moment. Apologies, Bebopper Champ. We'll talk about anime in a bit, all right? For those of you who were here on Sunday, we went into a little bit of an anime tangent. Why is Michael Gallup sucking this season? Mario, I'd primarily say that it's because he's coming off the ACL. Again, different players react to injuries differently, right? Like the fact that we saw Chris Godwin return as quickly as he did in comparison to Gallup and the way that he's looked in comparison, it has a lot to do with, genetics, how well the surgery took, how well your body takes to the surgery. There has been a lot of receivers over the last couple of years, a lot of players in the National Football League who have had ACL surgeries and had to go back in and do more work. Most recently in my mind, guys like OBJ, guys like J.K. Dobbins, guys like David Bakhtiari, the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers. A lot of these guys dealt with ACL injuries and they just really haven't felt themselves. So that could be the case here for Michael Gallup. Hey, Andrew, what do you think about Kieran Williams? Kieran Williams is in a very interesting situation. Dude, your name, Hassan Habi. Oh, my goodness. Interesting. Anyway, so in terms of what we're specifically thinking about Kieran Williams, he was utilized as a primary receiving back on Sunday. Okay, he got himself 3 receptions, had 1 rushing attempt. Could he be the guy that leads this backfield going forward? Sure. But it's not a matter of his talent. It's a matter of the talent of the offensive line that is going to limit his overall potential. So in that, I'm probably leaning towards saying, yeah, I'd like to have him stashed on the end of my bench if I have room. But other than that, I don't really trust that the Rams will win another game for the remainder of the season until we see a Cooper Kupp back in the lineup. And that may not be until 2023. So I'm willing to go ahead and just avoid all Rams if I have to. Thank you. All right, a couple more questions that were sent in via donations. Want to get there. We had Jorge Perez sent in one, so let me go ahead and get to Jorge's question. Let's see here. Where's my man, Jorge? All right, Jorge, where are your questions, my guy? There's a lot. Okay, here we go. Jorge says, in a full PPR, I need 3. Okay. Mike Williams, Sutton, Olave, Thielen. Can you pick up? Okay, can pick up DPJ, Tony. Wait, really? Wait. Can pick up DPJ. Tony picked up Watson. He killed. Okay, awesome. So this is my current suggestion, Jorge. Immediately drop Thielen for Kadarius Toney. Immediately. It's not even a question. You do it now. You are looking to potentially play Kadarius Toney with Mike Williams and Watson, if you can. If not, and Mike Williams is not active this week, then you would play Watson with Toney and Sutton this week. Okay? But for sure, Thielen is a drop. I'm picking up Toney. Thank you. Did you have another question here? Full PPR. I needed to pick up a quarterback as a starter. Okay. You got Mariota. Yeah, Mariota is a good option. Again, I have him as my number 13. Can get Heineke, Wilson, Jimmy, McCoy, Brissett, Pickett, Stafford, Goff, the other options. Okay, I mean, at this point, it's between Jimmy G and it's between Mariota. Currently, I have Mariota a little bit ahead of him in a 4-point per passing touchdown format because of the rushing upside. Otherwise, like I mentioned in my video earlier today, Jimmy Garoppolo in a standard 4-point per passing touchdown league has put up 15 plus fantasy points in 5 consecutive games. If you want 15 fantasy points base minimum, you play Jimmy G. If you want something that is in that range, could be less, but has the upside of certainly doing more, then you play Mariota. But I'm comfortable with either of the two. And honestly, at this point, I just have Mariota one spot ahead of him, so I can go either way. Your following question there, Mr. Jorge, thank you very much. Again, was full PPR. I need a tight end and Ertz. Okay, so I need a tight end. Had Ertz available is Njoku, Dulcich, Komet, Moreau, Juwan Johnson. Okay, awesome. I think this is very simple. You pick up Njoku if he plays. Oh, no, wait, what am I talking about? We have Komet available. Wow. We have Komet available, huh? Let's pick him up. Let's get him going. Jorge, this is my suggestion. If you have another option to potentially drop on your bench, I'd like to pick up both Komet and Njoku. Obviously, I'd like to play Cole Komet this week going up against the Atlanta Falcons defense. But if you can't pick up both, that's fine. Just pick up Cole Komet, and we're going to roll with him rest of the way here. Thank you. Okay, Augustus, we're going to get to your question in just a moment. Let me go ahead and pull it up on the other monitor after I get to some of these other questions that were sent in ahead of you. All right, so after SIP, we had Jorge. We did those. Okay, Christos, thank you very much. Said, 10-team full PPR league. I'm currently 6-4. I have Kyler McCaffrey, Kamara, Mike Williams, DeAndre Hopkins. We have Dalton Schultz, DPJ, A-Rod, Melvin Gordon, Gallup, Zeke, Dulcich, Hollywood, OBJ, Hardman. I mean, you have the injury squad. Like, you literally, everyone on your team is injured to some sort of capacity. I mean, we're talking about Mike Williams, currently, or was injured. D-Hop dealing with an injury. A-Rod, just a bum. Gallup, knee is a problem. Zeke, knee is a problem. Hollywood coming off injury. OBJ is coming off injury. Hardman went to the IR. Interestingly enough, huh? So, in your current position, under the assumption that everybody's healthy and ready to go, you'll be playing Kyler, Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, Mike Williams, D-Hop. You play Schultz at tight end, you're good to go. You would potentially, if Hollywood Brown is available, play him at flex. If he is not available, again, you have DPJ, which has been a very consistent option in a full PPR, over 10 fantasy points for like 6 consecutive weeks now. And until you get OBJ back, you're fine. Any moves that you can theoretically make, in my mind, are potentially surrounding splitting one of your players, because I don't think you can gain much value from trading away Allen Robinson or so you have A-Rod. Sorry, you don't have Allen Robinson. You have Aaron Rodgers. My apologies. You have Melvin Gordon. You have Gallup. You have Zeke. You have Dulcich. You have Hardman. You have Hollywood. You have OBJ. In terms of bench value, unless you're going to trade away one of your studs like a D-Hop or a Kyler or not Kyler, Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, unless you're going to trade one of them for 2 options in return, I think you're fine at what you have, because really you can't make moves with your bench players, considering until they once again reestablish as value, until we see these guys score fantasy points, then and only then can we potentially ship them off for more value in the future. CBZ says, I'm 7-3. How do I make my team potentially better? I mean, if you're 7-3, it's going to probably be difficult, huh? You have Lamar and Deshaun Watson, Saquon Sanders, JT. I mean, obviously 3 running backs that are studs. You have Kittle, Myers, Waddle. I mean, again, we're having a problem here because it's going to be tough to improve that. You have Elijah Mitchell. Okay. You have Jeff Wilson Jr., Cooper Kupp on the IR. Okay, here's my suggestion, CBZ. I'm looking to trade Cooper Kupp purely. Go to another team that has a very high record and get rid of him. Go and get their potential, one of their better receivers, because there is a very good chance that Cooper Kupp does not play for the remainder of the year, and I think that it potentially helps your team. Outside of that, I don't think moving any of these other guys are going to help you, because you want to maintain depth. You don't want to be giving away Myers and McLaurin unless you're really going to get back stud talent. Like, if you can give away Myers and McLaurin and someone's going to give you back CeeDee Lamb, then sure, let's do it. But I don't think you're going to be getting those in exchange right now. So you want to keep that primary depth for the future of the season. Augustus says, top 10 rest of season quarterbacks, Fields, Hurts, Burrow, a question mark. Okay, so top 7 rest of season quarterbacks. I would venture to say number 1 is still Josh Allen. Number 2 is probably still Patrick Mahomes. Number 3 for me right now is Justin Fields. Number 4 is probably either Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow. Let's say, for example, we're going to put Burrow at 4, assuming Jamar Chase comes back next week. Hurts at 5, Lamar at 6, Justin Herbert 7. That is where I'm kind of, you know what? Probably Tua at 7. Maybe Tua higher, actually. Tua is probably 7. Yeah. So that's kind of where I have it in my mind right now, Augustus. But that's, again, off the top of my head. DeJounte sent in a question. Let me go ahead and see here. Where art thou question? All right. DeJounte, if you can do me a favor. I saw that you sent in a dono. If you could do me a favor and send in your question once again, that'd be greatly appreciated so I can catch it real quick. Thank you. Let me see what we have in the chat here while I wait for you to send that in. Let me scroll back up here. Okay, we had a couple questions there. Okay, so let's just start from here, shall we? Olave or Gabriel Davis, Pollard or Pierce, standard league. I'd like to play Pollard and I'd like to play Gabe Davis there because they're playing at an indoor stadium this week. So, John, I'm playing Gabe and I'm playing Pollard. Nathan Gutierrez says, hey, Andrew, I have Dalvin Cook, Eckler, and Kamara for my, for my wide receivers. I have AJ Brown, Sutton, and more, along with Juju. Should I trade for a wide receiver? Theoretically, you could. Do you have to? No. If you're going to move someone for a wide receiver, I don't think I'm moving any of those running backs. I'd like to have them on roster, assuming that, of course, Kamara finds himself a little bit more semblance of consistency in the near future here. But I don't think you need to trade for a wide receiver. If you're going to trade for a wide receiver, again, names that I've kind of thrown out there in the last couple. Again, every time I have an opportunity to be like, hey, go trade for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I continue to say that in every sort of capacity. But if not those, we would probably go after you guys like Chris Godwin and or Tyler Lockett rest of the way here. Waiting for DeJounte. After that, it was Golden sends in a question, said, trade Eckler for Cook and Mike Evans. You'd have to be pretty desperate at wide receiver to make that deal in my eyes. I know that with the return of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, it will potentially decrease the potential amount of receptions that that Eckler retains on a weekly basis. But also the return of those players will increase the amount of first downs they get, the amount of times they get into the red zone, and the amount of touchdowns that he ultimately scores. So you'd have to be pretty pressed at wide receiver to make that move. Otherwise, I'm keeping Eckler, especially if we're talking full PPR there. Jason sends in a question, says Kittle at Arizona or Schultz at Minnesota. I'd like to play both. If I had to choose one, it is Kittle at Arizona. Arizona's currently giving up 16.57 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends on a weekly basis in a half PPR. So that's one of the determining factors on that regard. Thank you. Let me see here. Let me go to the bottom. Troy, did you have a question attached to this, my man? Probably sent one earlier. If you could do me a favor, Troy, just send it again. That'd be greatly appreciated. Let's see here. Jesus says, I have Hurts, Eckler, JT, St. Brown, Mike Williams, Mark Andrews, and Foreman. I'm currently 5-5. Should I trade JT for Godwin and Waddle? Ooh, I would probably... Okay. Here's the thing, Jesus. If you're going to trade Jonathan Taylor away, okay, theoretically, which I don't think you need to. No, you don't have to. Actually, why would you? Now that I'm thinking about this, if you trade away Jonathan Taylor, theoretically, you're going to get back Godwin and Waddle, and they're both on bye week this week. So you automatically just take the L this week, right? If you're going to go ahead and go to 5-6, and then maybe only 6 teams out of your 12 make the playoffs, you're going to put yourself in a position where you have to start Foreman every week henceforth in comparison to JT, while you still have Mike Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, which in my mind have a lot of value in comparison to these two. So, I mean, yes, does this team... No, I think I'm just keeping JT, man. I think I'm just going to keep the JT and just keep it rolling there, my man. Okay, so we were looking for DeJounte. Here we go. Boom, got him. I have DJ Moore in my flex. Should I put... Yes, you should absolutely pick up Tony and play him for DJ Moore. Pick up DJ Moore for DJ Moore. Yeah, at this point, I'm confident enough that I would rather... Yes, I will drop DJ Moore rest of the season if I could have Kadarius Toney on roster. I'm fully fine with that. Full PPR or Campbell is available. I think it's probably in your best interest to have a receiver that is associated with Patrick Mahomes at a higher rate to score touchdowns and score fantasy points in comparison to Matt Ryan. As much as I love Campbell, especially this week, I think for rest of season purposes, Tony's the guy. So yeah, that's the play that I'm making. What's up, Dirty Dennis? Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for coming out here, guys. Again, for those of you who are joining us, we're gonna be here probably for the next 35 minutes answering questions to the best of my ability. Again, I know there's many of you, and I know I probably won't be able to answer everyone's questions, but I'm trying my very best to do so. Right now, just trying to catch up in terms of some of the donations sent in. Of course, supporting the channel with a monetary boost there. So I do appreciate you guys doing that. So we'll try to address those as much as we possibly can. We had Troy that sent in a question. Let me go ahead and see where his question's at. Troy said, pick 2, half PPR, Debo, Sutton, Allen, Robinson, Pittman. Yeah, I think we already did that one. So where's the follow-up question of that? Who should I play between Slayton, Gabe Davis, Campbell, and Jefferson? I prefer Campbell as number 1 there, Troy. My number 2 option would be Gabe Davis. Number 3 would be Slayton. Number 4 would be Van Jefferson. Thank you. Let me see if you had anything else. I think you're good to go there. You're good to go. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate that. Much love. All right. See some of these other questions here. Full PPR start 3, Tyler Boyd, Michael Pittman, Garrett Wilson, and Cortland Sutton. At this moment, in a full PPR scoring format, I think I'm fairly comfortable just going Sutton, Pittman, and Boyd there. I mean, in a full PPR, I think I might have Garrett Wilson. I got to go check my rankings. I might have Garrett Wilson ahead of Tyler Boyd, to be honest, though. For my Patreon rankings earlier today. Let me see here. Because that's where I'm mentally trying to... I think I'm leaning in that direction already to where I'm going to play him over Boyd. Yes, I have Garrett Wilson at 21, and I have Tyler Boyd at 22 in my full PPR. So the suggestion at that point would then pivot to let's play Pittman, let's play Sutton, and let's play Garrett Wilson this week there. E111 says, good to see the channels. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, E. Appreciate that. Should I trade DK Metcalf for Fields or roll with Cousins? If you can trade away DK Metcalf for Fields, let me see who else you have. You have Christian McCaffrey, you have Chubb, you have Walker CD, you have AJ, you have DK, you have Michael. Yes, I would do it. I would. 100% I'd feel very confident in doing so. I'd like to have Fields rest of the way in comparison to Kirk Cousins because I know this isn't saying that you should drop Kirk Cousins in any sort of capacity because you need to have that insurance policy just in case. But for right now, yeah. If in fact there's somebody available that we've talked about, maybe a Kadarius Toney, a Paris Campbell, somehow, some way still available in your waivers, then you would make a move onto them and drop Kirk Cousins. But yes, I'm comfortable making that DK to Field swap. Again, like I was mentioning, in my mind, besides Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, we have Fields, then we have Burrow, Hurts, Lamar, Tua, Herbert. That's the order of quarterbacks as of right now. Appreciate it. Carter or Slayton in a full PPR flex this week? Jersey, I'm going to go with Michael Carter this week. I think Slayton is good. I just am very concerned about his potential if he doesn't score a touchdown. At very best, he could probably be a 10-point play. I think Michael Carter just has a little bit more upside in that regard. Alpaca says, who are we starting this week, guys? I have Jacoby Myers, Juju Smith. I think Juju Smith is probably going to be out. I don't like that you called him Poopster because I love Juju Smith. I think he's a great player. Rondell Moore. I have Hollywood, DJ Moore. Yeah, I think right now we're going to go with Jacoby Myers. I appreciate that. Andrew, I got Patterson, Pierce. Why is Patterson capitalized? Pierce and Schultz. Who would you play in a full PPR scoring format? That is a really good question. At this moment, I think I kind of want... Ooh, wow. You know what? Let me check my rankings. I mean, this isn't the end-all, be-all. It could change by the time we get to Sunday. But I think I might have Schultz ahead of them all. I have Schultz at 41. I have Cordero Patterson at 43. Where's Dameon Pierce? Dameon Pierce I have at 36. So Dameon Pierce is theoretically the highest one of my rankings, but he's only 5 spots ahead of Schultz in a full PPR in my mind. So again, pretty good options across the board there, my man. Thoughts on trading Ayuk and Tua for Herbert and Debo? I think I'd rather just have Ayuk and Tua the rest of the way, to be honest. I don't mind it. Again, if you think that Debo can get back on track, let's roll with it because I think Herbert will certainly be a significantly better option with the return of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams when that does arrive. My receivers are currently... Yeah, I mean, look, again, I don't mind it. I don't mind the trade at all. In my mind, it's relatively even across the board to the extent to where either way, I think I'm happy because they're both going to be very similar production numbers eventually. Yo, Andrew, I lost Goddard last week. Traded Danny Jones / Joshua Palmer for Schultz. Thoughts? W. Absolutely W, coast to coast. You guys know how much I love Dalton Schultz. Yeah, so it's just... No question, fantastic trade. Would you trade Debo and Mike Williams for Schultz and Mike Evans? My tight end is Dulcich at the moment. It depends who else you have a wide receiver, because if you're going to have to rely upon Evans, Gonzo, and you don't have any other depth and your next best guy up is going to be, George Pickens, I think we're in trouble there, right? And I don't know if I would like to make that pivot at that moment, right? So if you do have depth and you have other guys that could actually be stable enough starters on a weekly basis to where I'm not concerned about who we're playing there, then I'm okay with it. All right, let me see here. A couple more questions that were sent in to the chat. Let me go ahead and try to address those really quickly. We had Corey Olson. Okay, so we had, first and foremost, we had Lamont send in a question. Thank you very much. Pickett, my apologies. Kenny Pickett, Heineke, Russ, or Goff this week. I currently have it in this current order. Goff, Russell Wilson. Let me check my ranking. Where do I have Kenny Pickett? Kenny Pickett is ahead of Tyler Heineke by one spot. So I would rank it Goff, Russell Wilson, Pickett, Heineke in that order, Lamont. Thank you. Corey Olson says, what's Kadarius Toney going to look like moving forward? You think going forward, you think? And then, okay, so let's do that first question before we get to DeAndre Swift. With McCole Hardman going to the injured reserve, guys, when I watched the game between the Kansas City Chiefs this last week against the Jaguars, it was extremely apparent that Kadarius Toney was being utilized in the exact role that McCole Hardman was. And that's exactly what he's built for. A lot of jet sweeps, a lot of motion action, a lot of get him ready to go before he even gets the ball in his hands so that he can make defenders miss. And that's a perfect utilization of him. That's why they traded for him. I legitimately think if Juju Smith-Schuster comes back next week, everyone's healthy in that regard, but McCole Hardman obviously is going to miss the next miss from weeks 11 through probably 14, maybe 15. If he's going to miss all that time, Kadarius Toney is probably in that conversation of being top 24 for the next couple weeks here. Just because of the offense he's associated with, of course, and his talent. Follow-up question was, do you see Swift taking over the backfield this season? Yes, I expect that to be this week. Whether or not it happens, completely different, because that's what I thought it was going to be last week, and it didn't happen, What about Patterson rest season? Patterson has good value. The only issue that I have with Patterson is that they're going to utilize a lot of running backs. So it's not only going to be him that carries the ball, and he could have running back touchdown siphoned. I don't expect that to be automatic, but if in fact it happens, it could be very detrimental to his upside. Thank you, Corey. 5 sends in a question. Riney5 says, flex one, play one. Okay, so we need to play one flex, one tight end. Okay, let's go ahead and address this. We have Devonta Smith, we have Garrett Wilson, we have Cordero Patterson, we have Kmet, we have Everett. Kmet is the automatic tight end play. As for the flex play, if it's between Garrett Wilson and Cordero Patterson, let me confirm here. What's the scoring format? Let's say it's half PPR, okay, because you didn't mention it. If it's half PPR, do I have Garrett Wilson theoretically ahead of Patterson? Let's check, shall we? I have Cordero Patterson here, and I have him. Where the heck is Garrett Wilson? Where art thou? Garrett Wilson's below him. Yeah, so I would play Cordero Patterson at the flex, and I would play Cole Kmet at tight end there. 95, thank you. Rockout says, PPR flex, pick 2, Brian Robinson, Allen Robinson, Pacheco, Nico Collins. If it's my team, I'm playing Brian Robinson and Isaiah Pacheco this weekend. Thank you. Jason says, pick 2 wide receivers, 1 running back. We have Juju, we have Mike Williams, we have DJ Moore, we have Amari Cooper, we have Allen Robinson, we have Connor, we have Pacheco. Okay, so 2 wide receivers. Mike Williams, I don't think Juju's plays, so then we play Amari Cooper after. So Mike Williams, Amari Cooper. If Mike Williams doesn't play, then you have to obviously be relegated to playing DJ Moore and Amari Cooper, but hopefully that won't be the case. As for Connor Pacheco, I'm going to play Connor there. Thank you. Marion Garcia, thank you very much, says, I need trade suggestions. My team is currently 3-7, trying to make a late run here. Okay. Full PPR, 2 flex in this league. We have Russell Wilson, we have Dalvin Cook, we have Josh Jacobs, we have Diggs, we have Brown, we have Schultz. Waddle. Okay, you have to trade away Waddle immediately. That's my number one thought. You got to trade away Waddle. You got to go get any other wide receiver depth that you can, considering you already have Jacobs, you already have Diggs, you already have Dalvin Cook, you have AJ Brown, I'm assuming, so you need a flex option. So in order to make this last push, you need to 100% trade away Jalen Waddle, and you have to get somebody that can help you, because if you lose this week, it's all done. Mathematically, you will not be eligible to make your playoffs. So Marion, at this point, if we're trading a Jalen Waddle, considering his fantasy point per game production this year, specifically with Tua. If we go ahead and eliminate those games in which he played well with Teddy Bridgewater or didn't play well with, Skylar Thompson when Tua was out with the concussion, the guy's averaging, at least in a half PPR, like 16, 17 points per game. So we're going after guys that are legitimately, we want guys of that value. So who are we going after? We need CeeDee Lamb back. We need DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams. We need those guys. And if we're not going to get it in return, you go after a 2-for-1 in which you can bring back an Amon-Ra St. Brown and someone else that is playing this week in order to kind of recoup value there. Thank you. Okay. Brian Robinson or Jacoby Myers this week depends on scoring format. I think if it's in a half PPR and or standard, Brian Robinson probably has the advantage, but I think in a half full, I probably go Myers. I go Brian Robinson only in a standard format there. What do you think about AB trading Foreman for... Okay, what do you think about trading Foreman for Tony? You have to be really stable at running back, and I'll tell you why. Foreman has a really strong strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. Like, the upcoming schedule is going to make Foreman a legitimate top 12 back the rest of the way. So I don't think I'm trading him. Yes, he may have a difficult, schedule this week, but I don't think it's enough for me to make that move at this current moment. Lost Ertz. I have Freiermuth. Should I drop Gus and pick up Komet? I would probably venture towards rather dropping Freiermuth for Komet, but you could drop Gus if you don't need him and you have enough running back depth to kind of handle that kind of a move. Debo for Garrett Wilson and Kupp. Are you taking Kupp? I don't think I want to trade for Kupp right now, guys. Okay, let's think about this, okay? Theoretically, right now, at this current moment that we're speaking, the Los Angeles Rams are the worst offense in the National Football League in terms of yards per game, okay? So let's just put that in perspective. Their upcoming schedule here for the Rams, they take on the Saints, they're going to lose. They take on the Chiefs, they're going to lose. They take on the Seahawks, they're going to lose. They take on the Raiders. That's probably the easiest game that they have. Are they going to beat the Raiders? They have a chance, but maybe they win. Okay, let's say they win that. I don't think they will. You know what? They probably don't. 0-4. They play the Packers. 0-5. They play against the Broncos. Maybe Russell Wilson gives them a generous win. And by that time, by December 25th, week 16, if Cooper Kupp is back, sure. But by the time you lose the next 5 games in a row against the Saints, Chiefs, Seahawks, Raiders, and Packers, this football team is just, they're eliminated. They're a 3-11 football team, and Cooper Kupp doesn't need to come back. So if you're talking about trading for Cooper Kupp, not inclined to do so at the moment here. So yeah, I'm not interested in that. I saw a question that was sent in, but there wasn't a message attached to it. Here we go. Where's your question, my man? All right, what value do you think Dameon Pierce has? I'm a little weak at wide receiver. I currently have Lockett, Pittman, Campbell, DPJ, Curtis Samuel, Nico Collins. Okay, so if we're theoretically thinking about trading, okay, let's think about this, right? Let me do some math in my head. So if we look at running back position, we think about a half PPR scoring format from weeks 3 through 10, okay? Let's think about what Dameon Pierce has been able to accomplish. Dameon Pierce has been averaging 14.3 fantasy points per game over the last 7 games. So, if in fact we're going to trade away Dameon Pierce, who's been averaging 14.3 fantasy points per game in the last 7, for a wide receiver, by all means, I need someone that is putting up very similar numbers. So, the potential guys in that, conversation, as of late specifically, there aren't many, but I mean, if we're moving him, let's see here. Under the assumption you don't need this players to play right now, you could trade him for Christian Kirk theoretically. You could trade him for I don't think I want him for Amari Cooper actually. A little bit inconsistent on those half the games. A lot of boom and bust there for Amari Cooper. Maybe T Higgins. Amon-Ra St. Brown I'll continue to preach. As of late, Terry McLaurin has been pretty good, averaging about 13.6 with Taylor Heineke under center. So those are a couple of the names that I'd like to throw out. Amon-Ra, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett to the world. I don't think no one's going to give you CeeDee Lamb as much as I'd like to see that. Christian Kirk I'll take. Those are the kind of guys in terms of value. So lower end wide receiver ones, high end wide receiver twos that you could theoretically get, because that's exactly what your running back is. He's a lower end RB1, higher end RB2. Thank you. All right, let me go ahead and scroll down here. I'm the foreman for Tony Guy. I have Kenneth Walker, Saquon, and Mixon. Okay. At that point, that's fine by me. If you want to make the trade, you can. Again, I think you can get more for Foreman, but if you can't, maybe your team or your league is a little bit stingy about it. I'm fine with it. Let's see here. Jose says I grabbed Watson last second and it paid off. Last second? What do you mean? You mean he cleared waivers? No one picked him up off waivers this week? How is it possible? How is that an actual possible thing? All right, a couple more questions that were sent in. Let me go ahead and address them really quickly. Corey Olson says Pittman or Tony full PPR. I have Tony ahead of him right now. Brian Robinson or Patterson? I have Patterson ahead of him. So it's Tony and Patterson between those two. Thank you. Okay, let me see here. So I'm going to go ahead, do a couple things here really quickly. Let me do this. So we're going to get back to the chat in just a moment. Just want to remind you guys, if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, there's a link down in the description. Again, if you're trying to play more than just your own fantasy teams, trying to play daily fantasy, whether it is the NFL, NBA, other sports, you can go ahead and check out the link down in the description of the video when you travel there, like we're going to do just right now, and sign up today, making a first-time deposit. I think it's minimum of $10. You'll be given a first-time deposit match up to $100. So basically, it's a first-time deposit match that is doubled immediately. So if you deposit 10, you'll be given 10. Make some couple entries, have some fun, win some money. If you guys are interested, we're going to check that out right now via PrizePicks. Just want to kind of give you guys a glimpse, just in case. I had a decent day today. I mean, when I say decent, I actually won one of my entries. Yay, Andrew won an entry. How beautiful is that? You know, it only took him, you know, a lot of money lost, but hey, you know what? We're gonna make, you know, we're gonna make some improvements here, and we're gonna figure it out here. So this is what your boy had. Let me see if I can pop this thing on screen. Can I? I think I can. Yeah, I'm you know what? I'm gonna try it. Here we go. So if we do this, yeah, okay. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna kind of shrink it down to where I can still be on screen. Ha ha ha. Here we go. Boom. Look at that. All right. So today I had two specific entries. Okay. Let me go ahead. Let me try to tighten this sucker up so I can kind of expand it on screen. There we go. Here we go. I had two entries today. I was so close. Okay. The Christian Watson, Nick Westbrook, Ikine were easy. Okay. That's not a problem. The issue was that all I needed was 2 more rushing attempts from Aaron Jones. I needed this game to be a little bit more competitive for Aaron Jones to be at least given a couple more opportunities, because everything else was looking clean. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm coming up plus 40, but still, that's not enough. Especially when we're talking about Angie was taking L's on Monday night, okay? I mean, at least I won a couple UFC ones. Again, like I was telling you guys, I was literally not even, I think it was 29 seconds away from Adesanya passing this one. But I felt confident about these today. That's why I went up with, you know, with the big money ones. Either way, let me go back to the board here. If we go ahead and expand this sucker real quick. Alrighty, let's do this. Cover Andrew's face a little bit, then make this a little bit smaller. Again, if you travel to PrizePicks, there's a bunch of potential entries that you can make this weekend. Again, a lot of players, a lot of potential picks. You're picking more or less on a given player statistic. That's the entire impetus of this game. So if you're interested today, check that out. There's a link down in the description. We'll go ahead and potentially put some entries in on Saturday afternoon, because that's typically where I like to do all my research and kind of lock in on that. Either way, just wanted to show you guys that. If you're interested, there's a link down below. Use promo code Andrew. Thank you very much. All right. So where's the YouTube chat? There it is. Awesome. Let's go ahead and let's get back to answering some questions, because I know that's what you guys are here for. So I want to try to get to that as much as I possibly can. Cole Kmet or Michael Pittman in the flex? I mean, it's probably Michael Pittman in a full PPR, but I wouldn't even be mad at you if you played Cole Kmet. I think it is such an automatic at this point to just want to play him, because it just seems like, man, the momentum is there for him. Justin sends in a question, says, who do I get for Swift? Lamb, Higgins, wide receiver needy. If you can get Lamb or Higgins, I'm fine with probably getting the Lamb part of that deal. I don't mind Higgins. I just don't think it's as valuable theoretically. Higgins has been good this year. I think he's averaging about 13 fantasy points per game. when healthy, and he hasn't left the game early, so he's decent, but I don't know if he's going to be more valuable than Swift. But that being said, you can't be really picky considering Swift's current production, so I'll take it if that's what you desperately need to try to put together a win here and keep your hopes alive going forward. Jose says just traded AJ Brown 2 away for Adams and Debo ? Or sorry, not you didn't trade it. Just trade those away. If you're going to trade away AJ Brown and Tua and get Adams and Debo, yes, I prefer Adams over AJ Brown. You get Debo, and then you also still have a quarterback on roster. I'm fine with that, Jose. Jayon sends in a question, says, both of my top wide receivers are on bye. Pick 2.5 PPR scoring from that Palmer, Campbell, Pickens, Slayton, Donovan Peoples-Jones. If I'm picking 2, Campbell's number 1, Donovan Peoples-Jones is number 2. The only reason I would not play Donovan Peoples-Jones is if, in fact, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both inactive and Joshua Palmer becomes a better play. That being said, we will not be given that information until Sunday night because the Chiefs don't play the Sunday night game against the Chargers, and we won't probably be given the activation, list until later in the afternoon. So you'll probably be playing Donovan Peoples-Jones and Paris Campbell this week. Thank you. Alrighty, let me get back to this chat. Let's see what we have here. Okay, we did Justin's question. Would you rather have Kelsey or Barkley rest of the season? No context. Okay, no context at all. Who's scoring more points? I would rather have Barkley. Thank you. PPR, start 1, Gus the Bus or Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson? It's Brian Robinson right now. Thank you. Full PPR, Fields, Godwin, Keenan, Michael Williams, Sutton, Moore, Palmer, Campbell, Kenneth Walker, ET. Okay, you got a pretty good-looking team there across the board. Should I trade for a wide receiver 1? Who do I give up? If you're trading, Okay, theoretically, if you're going to give away players for a wide receiver 1, I don't want to give away Kenneth Walker, ETN at all. So I'd be willing to give away Godwin, Keenan, Mike Williams, Sutton, Moore, Campbell, Palmer, even Connor, even Rashad White, even Warren. You keeping Schultz. So Fields, Schultz, ETN, Kenneth Walker. Those are your 4 guys that I think are permanents on your team. They have to be kept. If you're going to give away anybody, it's the other guys that are available on your team. Let's go try to get a wide receiver 1, my man. Who wins? Christian McCaffrey, Rondale Moore, Hollywood Brown, Hawkinson for Andrews, DK, Madison, and likely Christian McCaffrey, Rondale Moore, Hollywood, Hawkinson for Andrew. Yeah, it's the Christian McCaffrey side that wins this deal. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Hey, Andrew, I'm 4-6. I have Kyler, ETN, Jeff Wilson, J-Rob, Mitchell, Rashad White. Okay, I already know where this question is going. Do I trade away Olave and ETN? Yep, I knew this is going there. For Jacobs and Garrett Wilson. Yes, you do. Because if you're 4-6 and you don't win this week, okay, theoretically, Ravi, your chances are done, right? Because let's say, for example, Ravi, you play in a 12-team league, and let's say in this 12-team league, only 6 teams make the playoffs. You are going to need 7 to 8 wins, which means you're going to have to win out and or win it all. So at this point, yes, I'm making the trade because I think you need to. Because if you don't, you're at a severe disadvantage this week without ETN on roster, without Jeff Wilson on roster, because again, they're both on bye. The entire state of Florida, which is Tampa Bay, Miami, and Jacksonville, all on bye week this week. I'd make the trade, yeah. Hey, Andrew, start 2. Ayuk, Debo, Pacheco, Swift. Also Lamar, Fields. Yes, I have Fields ahead of Lamar. Again, guys, if you're wondering what my quarterback and tight end rankings are, again, the video is right here. I was posting it earlier today on the channel, so it's available if you want to check that out. We have top 16 tight end rankings along with top 16 quarterback rankings. We also have matchups at each position, so if you're curious as to who has the best matchup going into this given week and how you can potentially take advantage of that, that's available currently. Fields is my number 1 quarterback on the week, wide receiver. I mean, he might as well be the number 1 running back of the week. The guy's been running for 150 yards each of the last 2 games. I think it was 147, but still. The amount of production he had last week in terms of rushing stats, right? 147 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He would have been the number 1 running back last week, right? So that's kind of the deal that we're rolling with here with Justin Fields. I love it. Love to see it. I have no complaints at all about it. I'd actually like to see him run more, to be honest, because some of my fantasy teams are really thriving because of it. Let's see here. Trade ETN and Sutton for CeeDee Lamb. Only if, in fact, you're in a position where you have to win this week because you're desperate because you don't have ETN available. Because if we're looking towards the fantasy playoffs, I would rather have ETN than CeeDee Lamb. It just heads up, straight up. With Buffalo moving to Detroit, where does Gabe Davis move? Yeah, I'll tell you right now. Currently, I moved him up a pretty significant margin than where he was originally on Wednesday's wide receiver video. So, in a half PPR scoring format, Gabriel Davis moved up to my number 18 wide receiver. Now, that being said, he's number 18 under the assumption that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both play. So, I have both them above him, which moves down everybody subsequently. So, it is theoretically, he's gone up a pretty significant margin, but in terms of the number, it doesn't matter. So he's gone up a pretty good amount. Like in comparison to where he was, next to Amari Cooper and Debo down there, and yeah, he's gone up about 8 spots overall, 8 total. All right, a couple questions that were sent in here. Jorge, I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Frank Grillo, what's up? How you doing? Says Dak or Herbert this week. I currently have Herbert ahead of Dak, again under the assumption that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are playing. If they're not, I'd rather play Dak. Hurts or Lamar this week, I'd rather play Hurts. Even with the Indianapolis matchup and even with no, what's his name? Dallas got it this week. Thank you. Mean the Bush says, drop Deontay Johnson for Paris Campbell. I would. Yep, I would do it in a heartbeat. Thank you. All right, let me see here. Jorge Perez had a question. Oh, Jorge's right here. Let me see if... Okay, Jorge. Thank you for answering my questions. I picked up Komet and Tony, rolling with Mariota. Awesome, great. I started Watson as my flex this week. Have 3 wide receiver slots to fill. Starting Tony, Williams. Who would be the third overall? Olave or Sutton? It would be Sutton. Again, this is under the assumption that we can trust that Williams actually does play on Sunday night. Because if he doesn't, then you'd probably have to play Olave in the spot of Williams. But for right now, yes, it would be Tony, Williams, and Sutton. All right, let me see here. Let me just go back up. Don't want to update too fast. All right, so that was his question. Brian, Colorado, just because you were next to Jorge, we already got you. We're good. Mr. Gutierrez, I think we answered one of your questions earlier. Is this the same one? I was offered McCaffrey, Lockett, Amon-Ra for Eckler, AJ Brown, and Foreman. Sorry, just Eckler and AJ Brown. I have Foreman, I have Kamara, I have Dalvin Cook. For my running backs, my wide receivers are Sutton. Okay, so you're going to get McCaffrey, Lockett, and Amon-Ra for Eckler and AJ Brown. I'm perfectly fine with that trade. Don't mind it at all. Take the deal. Good to go there. Thank you. Picked up Christian Watson in all 3 of my leagues. Went hard in the paint with him with Fab. Yeah, you had to. I mean, again, if you want top tier talent, you're going to have to spend money, especially when he's coming off a 30-point game. The momentum's there, so you have to go hard. And hopefully the consistency is there, because if he can end up being, like I mentioned earlier on in today's stream, if he can end up being what Allen Lazard was for this offense for the first half of the season, for what Aaron Rodgers wants to do with him in the later half and just be the touchdown guy and score majority of the touchdowns in the receiving game, the sky's the limit for the guy, for the kid. Darnell Mooney or A-Rob as wide receiver 3, Darnell Mooney. If we hear Hollywood Brown is back in time, do I start him over? Yes, you absolutely play him over Drake London, Emma. Absolutely. Kadarius Toney or Cordero Patterson in a standard league. That one I'm gonna have to mull over a little bit. I think I'm playing. I think I'm gonna play Toney there. I think I'm gonna play Toney. Not 100% certain yet, but I think I'm leaning towards Toney there, Patrick. Picked up Olave. Wait, sorry. Pick one. Start Olave, Pickens, Pittman, or I'm gonna play Pittman this week there, John. Thank you. I think we mentioned it during our video on Wednesday. The value that Michael Pittman has when Matt Ryan is active is ridiculous, right? Like the amount of targets per game he's earning with Matt Ryan under center is significantly higher than what we saw with Ellinger. There's a reason why we were off every single fantasy prospect for the Colts when Ellinger was a starter, because Ellinger was killing the offense as a whole. So now that we have the potential in which Matt Ryan's back, the last 3 games of Matt Ryan, he's averaging 11 targets, 9 catches, and 82 yards per game. I mean, that's just as good as it gets. 11.83 fantasy points per game in the last 3 contests in a half PPR format. So I'm all in on it. Alrighty, so we're going to be concluding today's stream in about 6 minutes, 10 p.m. sharp, because your boys got to go prepare stuff for tomorrow's video and get everything going there. Before we finish out, we got a couple more questions here. Chubb or ETN rest the season? I'm probably going to say let's go ETN, mainly off of the rest of season strength of schedule in the fantasy playoffs. The 3 games that the Jacksonville Jaguars have are advantageous enough in my eyes to where I'd rather have ETN there. Specifically weeks 16 and 17, which could win a week and or season. But Chubb, again, he's pretty solid. I mean, you know that. He's top 5 rest of the season as well. Let's see here. Let me scroll. Okay, let me make sure I didn't miss any donations that were sent in. Corey Olsen says, Lost Goddard. Is Moreau sustainable? Yes, I believe so. Is he going to be able to get it done every week? No, because that's just the tight end position as a whole. But considering there is no Waller or Renfro and Mac Hollins isn't getting much utilization, Moreau seems to be one of those guys that they like to get the ball to consistently. Again, it is a Josh McDaniels-led offense. He's the offensive coordinator. We know how much he liked to utilize the tight end position back in New England when he was the offensive coordinator there from 2012 to 2021. So, of course, it's going to be a lot of opportunity for Foster Moreau going forward here. Andrew, is this a bad question? I picked up Deshaun Watson, and considering Brissett just had a 20-point half PPR against the Bengals, is it crazy to consider playing Watson over Fields, who plays the Bills this week? I don't understand. Watson's not playing. I don't understand this. So, Ibrahim, Deshaun Watson doesn't come back till week 13. So, Fields is your starter because you're going to start Fields over Brissett. Watson does not come back till week 13. He's not active until the Houston game. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a understanding. Any updates on Mike Williams? Yeah, he's been limited to practice. No concrete details though at the moment. I posted a question earlier in the stream. Please check if you have time. Yeah, we'll try that right now. To be honest, I'm searching. I'm using the F function, the F3, because it was so long ago. Villa, it won't come up. So just type it again and I'll try to get to it, okay? Damian Pierce or Alvin Kamara this week? I mean, I'd rather play Alvin Kamara. I don't mind the play of Damian Pierce, but you guys got to understand, Washington's front seven is no joke. The Washington Commanders have a really good defensive line. If Chase Young is back, they are going to make it extremely difficult for Damian Pierce to find higher upside value than usual. Jacoby Myers or Peoples Jones? Steven, it's Jacoby Myers. Again, guys, I posted the rankings videos for a reason. The rankings videos are pretty solid in terms of what my thoughts are until we get to Sunday. So, yes, I'm still going with Myers. I had him in my top 12 for a reason. But if you hadn't had a time to go and check those out, that's why we're here answering questions either way. Where's Villa, man? Where you at, my man? Pick one. Rondell Moore, Montgomery, Garrett Wilson. It's probably Montgomery, then Garrett Wilson. Nah, you know what? Forget the Garrett Wilson talk. It's just Montgomery. In a half PPR, it's Montgomery. Thoughts on Hollywood? Where does he rank if he plays and D-Hop is out? If he plays and D-Hop is out, I would have him in my top 12. Hey, Andrew, I have Eckler, Barkley, and Kenneth Walker, A.J. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown starting. Thoughts on trading Swift and Jacoby Myers for Higgins? Not interested. Again, I think you have such a strong team that you don't need to be making that kind of a trade. I'm not too interested in that. You could go for it. I'm just not too interested as of right now. Let's see here. Where are we at? Should I trade Dalvin, Higbee, and Kirk for Pierce, Andrews, and Olave? Dalvin, Higbee, and Kirk for Pierce, Andrews, and Olave. As much as I want to have Andrews on roster, I significantly prefer Dalvin over Pierce and Kirk over Olave. And I think that's the difference maker that leads me in the direction of just keeping this instead of going after Mark Andrews. Trade Jacobs for Cooper? I wouldn't. I mean, unless Josh Jacobs is your number 4 running back, I don't think we're making those kind of moves. I think we're selling low if we're making that move. Call me GM of the year. I sent Hollywood, Pittman, Lenny, Butker for Diggs, Boyd, and 49ers defense, and Tucker. Yeah, it's a W. Straight and simple. I think if you have enough depth to where this doesn't matter, like if you have 3 other good running backs and solid wide receivers, I think Diggs is fine. I don't really care about the kickers and defense BS. That is irrelevant to me. It's all about the primary guys that are going to help you win or be the difference makers in the given week. Should I trade? Okay, no, that's good there. Andrew, what's up, Andrew? Bench 1, Sutton, Cooper, Boyd, Gibson. If we're benching one this week in a half PPR, it's probably Gibson and or Boyd or Cooper. No, actually, it's Boyd or Cooper. Sorry, it's Gibson or Cooper because I want to start Sutton and Boyd. I think I'm benching Amari Cooper there this week. Thank you. Hello for Vermont. Okay, Vermont, what's up? How you doing? I don't know where Vermont is. It's somewhere over there, but what's up, dude? You know what? I'm actually curious. Where is Vermont? Somewhere over there. That's all I know. Let's look at the map. Where are we next to? Yeah, I mean, it's all the way out there next to New Hampshire, huh? There we go. Oh, it's right next to Canada, huh? You're just like right down the street from Montreal, Quebec, huh? How about that? Not down the street, but you know what I mean. Interesting. All right. And now we know. Where's Villa? Villa, where's your question, my guy? No? No Villa? Villa's gone? Sorry, Villa. Maybe next time. Bengals defense or Washington this week? I have the Washington Commanders ahead of the Bengals. JT for Chase, Sanders, and Watson. It really depends on what your other running backs are. Because if you, oh man, that's tough. Because this scares me, right? Jamar Chase, if I get him back in return for a play like this, it is a nightmare if he is not the top tier Jamar Chase. But if he is, I'm okay with the trade. Very risky. Yeah, it's very risky. Very risky, to say the very least. Hive had a question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to drop the chat real quick, answer a couple more, and then I got to go, guys. Do appreciate you guys coming out. Do appreciate you guys clicking the like button down below, supporting the channel, as you guys do on a typically daily basis. Do appreciate all of you guys who sent in donations. Thank you very much. Hive, for the final donation question of the day, says Freiermuth or Cooper in the flex. We're playing Cooper this week. Yeah, I have him higher than Freiermuth in my flex rankings. Thank you. Couple more regular questions from the chat just to kind of address these before we get going. If Hollywood is out, do I start Montgomery or Moore? I'd play Montgomery. Let's see here. ILM says you ignored my question. I didn't ignore your question. I just didn't see it. Since Brissett just got 20 points versus the Bengals, I'm asking you for week 16, should I consider starting Watson over Fields? My guy, we're not even preparing for week 16. Not like that. I can't even answer that question. By the time we get to week 16, you know, a lot of other crazy stuff could have happened. You know what I mean? All right. Let's see here. PPR Sutton or Pacheco? At this point, Gohan, I'm playing Sutton there this week. What do you think Dalvin ranks as a running back? Also, do you trust him to stay healthy? I do trust him to stay healthy. They've used enough Alexander Madison throughout the season to where he is going to be able to have himself a full healthy year here, Garrett. So, in terms of ranking, he's probably within the top 12 rest of the way here. We're good to go there. Pick up Muth or Njoku rest of the season. I'd rather have a healthy Njoku. Okay, what else do we have? Good to go, good to go. Okay, do appreciate that, guys. Tomorrow, we'll have another video out. Saturday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be here live streaming on the channel. We'll be answering questions, start or sit, similar to the ones today. We'll probably have a little bit more information by the time we get to Saturday. Also, again, Sunday morning, like I do every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be live streaming on the channel with updated rankings on screen. If you guys haven't checked out today's video, of course, tight end and quarterback rankings, check those out. If you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, there's a link down in the description. Sign up today using promo code Andrew. Get a first-time deposit match doubled and, excuse me, up to $100. So again, if you deposit 10 at the base minimum, you'll be given 10. If you deposit 100, you'll be given 100. You can go ahead, make some entries, play some daily fantasy via the NFL, NBA. Check that out today. I appreciate you guys. We're going to go ahead and bow out today. Cue in the music. And until next time, thank you, everybody, and I'll see you guys. Peace. It has come to my attention that Raphael sent in a donation. Raphael, I have come back. It is fine. I got you. All right, here we go. Raphael sent in a donation. Thank you very much. After the stream was already over. So, here we go. The question was, someone just offered me Olave and Breece Hall for Cooper Kupp. I'm confused. Is it a keeper league? Yes, I'd rather have Breece Hall for the future and probably Olave. But again, there's a lot of context that's missing within this question. Under the assumption that we're just selling because we don't expect to win this year and we can't wait for Cooper Kupp to come back and we're looking towards the future, yes, I'd rather have Breece Hall and Olave there. I've come back from the dead. I saved you a lot, Mr. Raphael. I do appreciate you sending that in. And we're back to the music. And good night, guys. Peace. If you can't keep him next year, then trade him. Get it done. Yeah, you should move him. Get Breece Hall. I know Breece Hall's probably not going to play next year at a max capacity because 1 year outside of an ACL, like J.K. Dobbins this year, like Saquon the year before, Breece Hall's not going to be great next year. But in 2024, he'll be pretty good. All right, see you guys.